Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's OCTA time. And you're all between me and food, and I'm starving. Anyway, let's get into this. This is a big story. We're going to try to dig into a few things. And I uncovered something which I'll do a little bit more investigation into tonight and share with you tomorrow about OTC desks. But I did discover something pretty alarming. There has been a massive change in OTC desk balances in a very short window of time. So more on that later. But we'll talk about now where the sellers are coming from, who is selling, and are they exhausted? Or is it just market manipulation that's going on? Crypto market cap is over $3.5 trillion. Volume is $130.5 billion. Bitcoin's all over the place. Liquidity hunting continues to happen. Fear and greed is very high. And let's get into the story. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Sir Winston, and everybody else who is here. Sir Winston, Saul Bull, Dude Travels, everybody else. Appreciate you. Let's talk about seller exhaustion. We'll talk about some AI and some black swans and all that good stuff as well. A lot to cover, as usual, and not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. And shout out to Patreon, the producers of the show. Simply Complex says, every single person who joins IA Patreon wishes they found or joined IA years ago. I appreciate that. And we're at a strange time right now. I'll actually share some price predictions across some major assets as well. A quick update from AI. And it'll show you how far we've come and how far we have left to go. So for me, it's a frustrating time because uncovering alpha right now is riskier and harder than ever before. But we know what's next, and that's the bear market. But before that, we have to get into profit taking, which we'll cover more of too as well. But thank you all, Patreon. Remember, billions are made in the bear. Billions are not made at the top of the bull. Very simple, as you always hear. But I have to keep hammering that home right now as well. Be patient, hone your skills, sharpen your tools, and get ready. First of all, good news. Let's check out Bitcoin action and crypto over the last 7 days. Dark green, XRP, XLM, OM, etc. A lot of green, Solana, ETH, Cardano, Binance negative, Doge negative, Sheep negative. Looks like the Toncoin as well negative. All the memes, etc., gave back. In terms of dollars, again, this is now different because Bitcoin took a dip since this happened, but that's how volatile it is. Literally in the space of an hour, Bitcoin fell $2,000. But the point is, over the last 7 days, you can see some of the results here of where we are and where we're going. I hope my screen is showing. Yeah, I assume it is. But again, results are all over the place. Let's look at fear and greed. We are now at 72, which is pretty much where it's been for the last week or so. We are extreme greed last week. I did the 76, but hovering around that 70 mark, which is typically very bullish. Let's look at some other indicators as well. Let's take a broad view of what's happening in crypto, how big, how bad, how active it is. And this is a cool little set of data. Market cap of the total crypto market is $3.7 trillion. Not bad. Remember, if things go really crazy this run, we could hit 10 trillion. That will be bonkers, especially for alts, etc. So fingers crossed. And by the way, thank you, K8, Sean Donnelly, T&D Tesla, all our great moderators keeping us all safe out there too. Appreciate you. Daily active addresses, 20 million. And a lot of them are all in one chain. Daily transactions, 134 million. Very active, up 10% over the last 30 days. And fees, again, up 107% over the last 30 days too. So the crypto world is pumping. Long shot, thank you. This is really a very, very good sign. If you're in the bear market, all these numbers are in the toilet. But maybe this time is different because adoption is everything. And crypto is more adopted now than ever before in the history of the world. Let's look at the top narratives year to date. Store of value is still winning. Bitcoin up 9.3% year to date. Last time I did this, it was up 11.5%. And Ethereum is down 5.9%. People are still clinging to that thing. And many are hopeful. We'll look at how hopeful AI is for Ethereum as well. Super interesting. We'll get to that soon. AltSeason, we are still in the middle of the road, a little bit leaning to the Bitcoin side at 47. This, I haven't seen it this tight in a range since early 2024, as you can see on the chart. So it's going to break one way or the other to the upside or the downside. Much of that could be to do with the amount of supply that's happening and the amount of buying. Top 50 performance as well over the last month. If you look at ENA, I always talk about ENA and say it rains down tokens, dumps every day. And you see that reflection in the price over the last month, down another 20%. Pepe down 28%. Fetch, hype. What hype? Yeah. Arbitrum layer 2s, Aptos layer 2s, Polkadot, middle of a bull market. This is pretty bad performance. And then on the left, you've got GT. No idea what that is. XRP is up 52% over the last month. Radium. Aha. I'm a Radium bag holder, 48%. Ohm, no idea what that is. And then Solana up 25.5%. Bitcoin up 10% over the last month. Remember, where you measure stuff, sometimes the data can be slightly different because of the time at which the snapshot's taken. So here you see over the last month, 10.6% up for Bitcoin. And on this chart, it's up 9.3%. So again, things can vary. Canuck on themes. Thank you so much from Team UK. Hope everything is good over there. So that's top 50 over the last 30 days. Let's look at money flow. Coin shares are back, and we had 1.9 billion come in last week. Last week was a big week because there was a new president, there was new executive orders, and there was the proposed initiation of strategic Bitcoin reserve, and so much more. Money was flowing in. So we had a very good last week and the week before that, after 3 very quiet weeks. But that's typically what happens during the Christmas period. And here we are. Let's break down by asset. Bitcoin brought in the most, 1.6 billion. Year to date, 4.4 billion. That's a lot of money. A lot of money coming in, and that represents about 92% of all the flows into the sector. Then you had Ethereum rebounded a little bit. They had 204 million come in, but it was not reflected in the price. That's quite a lot of money. But remember, it's a very big asset with a very large market cap. XRP also pulled in about 18 million. Solana, about 6.8. And then Chainlink, 6.6. Chainlink has been hitting the headlines, and we covered that yesterday in DCA as well. Short Bitcoin up a little bit. People were kind of hedging and protecting themselves. Let's get into a little on-chain stuff as well. Shout out to Axel. This I found was very interesting. We're trying to figure out where the Bitcoin supply is coming from and when will they stop selling. So if you look at all the long-term holders, not the cohort of 10 to 100 Bitcoin, but long-term holders, they're about 70% done selling during this bull run so far. But the biggest cohort that's selling the most right now are those that hold between 10 and 100 Bitcoin. And sometimes they're taking lifestyle chips, taking profits, etc. But if you look at the peak from June 2023, this cohort held about 3.2 million Bitcoin. And that has dropped by 600,000 Bitcoin to about 2.6 million Bitcoin. Remember, it may look pretty drastic on the chart, but they don't sell at all. They sell a little piece. So 600,000 over 3.2 million is, call it, a little, what's it, a fifth approximately. Anyway, the question is, will they stop? And the answer is, historically, if you go back in time, this cohort has not held so little Bitcoin since 2015. And that, I think, is the big stunning takeaway from this particular chart. And people are selling between 1 million and 10 million, effectively creating a significant number of real millionaires in the market over the past few months. Now, there are things that are kind of cheap now because dryers have dried up. Buyers have dried up. Buyers have dried up. If you take, for example, California real estate, nobody can insure a home or buy a home unless you're a cash buyer. So definitely, I know for a fact there are a bunch of people who are selling their Bitcoin in places like LA to raise money to rebuild a new home because they weren't insured. And I know 2 of those people that are in that situation right now. So these are the lifestyle chips. Nothing wrong with taking profits at all. And that's why it's good to have a Bitcoin bag for these exact rainy days. Now, speaking of Bitcoin as well, quite a bit of Bitcoin news today. Bitcoin's market cap is now, shown in Bitcoin, is 19.79 million Bitcoin. And if you look at that to all the other fiats on the world, you can see here US dollar has about 209 million Bitcoin, and the Chinese yen, 414 million Bitcoin. Remember, there'll never be more than 15 million Bitcoin. And China, yen, yuan, whatever you call it, currency, has 414 million Bitcoin. So the reason I find this fascinating in this chart is it highlights that Bitcoin's total supply is absolutely tiny compared to these large fiats. Even the yen, 103 million Bitcoin. And I forgot to add them up. A British pound, shout out to all the Brits out there, 44 million Bitcoin worth of pounds in circulation. Korean won, 38 million Bitcoin. Again, this is just the top 10 currency lists of fiats that are printed infinitely from central banks. But you know what's not printed infinitely? You guessed it, Bitcoin. This simple chart, show it to your friends and family, illustrates Bitcoin's extreme scarcity. Okay, you can't make more of it. Okay, one Bitcoin, 100 million sats. And that's it. That's all she wrote. So this is just, again, a very simple little chart. Enough to convince anybody. But there's more on this in a second. In fact, my slides are slightly out of sequence. But I'll get back to that after the price. And let me just do this one now, actually, because it's so important. This one, which goes back to this one. It was slightly out of sync. Remember, your dollars over infinite dollars is nothing. But your Bitcoin over only 21 million Bitcoin that'll never change is substantial. Fiat has no bottom and Bitcoin has no top. That's why people like Michael Saylor says he will buy the top forever because he knows holding on to fiat is a losing strategy. Let's check out some Bitcoin Speedos. No, not swimming trunks. Speedometers from Swissblock. And here's a couple of things that kind of I look at, and they're interesting to get kind of the lay of the land across many different things all at once. That's why I love this chart. First of all, the market type for Bitcoin is currently at 7, which means it's last week I think was around 20, and before that the average for the last 52 weeks is about 32. But this suggests that the market has moved from more neutral or slightly bullish stance to a little bit more of maybe neutral to slightly bearish. Now, market risk is 0, which is very low risk, which is a very good thing to see. So like buying now is pretty much risk-free because many of the indicators believe we're at the bottom. Considering it's at 102,000, 101,000, that's pretty significant. Price momentum, and by the way, market risk, considering the little AI BlackSwan we'll talk about in a minute too, is also fascinating. Price momentum is at 44, which is very bullish. This is a decrease last week, though. Last week was 30. Getting confused reading the gray. I can't kind of make out the gray. Anyway, bullish momentum indicates the price of Bitcoin is generally moving upwards or has positive momentum. Remember, Q1 of the year following the big first bull market year is positive, suggesting, of course, price increases. And then on-chain data, this is OCTA, on-chain technical analysis. On-chain fundamentals are 54, which is slightly above neutral today, which is good. Up from last week, and implies that the blockchain metrics like transaction volumes, active addresses, etc., are not strong or weak, but edging more to the stronger side. And overall today, market is looking good across everything. Now, this new piece is kind of fun. And, shout out to Sanjay as well. He went and ran queries across all the AI models for 2025 top price predictions for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And the results are impressive. Very interesting. First of all, some were very, very low. Like I have the price now at the top. I took all his data, put into a table for giggles. Bitcoin price when this was done was 101,361. ETH 3,100. Solana 228. Now, Super Soul Man, thank you for coming. The fun one that took the world by storm over the weekend is DeepSeek R1. That predicts a Bitcoin price of $156K, $11,500 ETH, and 475 Sol. Claude, again, 185, 12, 420. 420, you can't make that number up. Grok 2, 200K, 7K, and 750. Grok 2 is very bullish on Solana. And not bad on Bitcoin. Meta's Llama 3.1, 250K Bitcoin target, $8,000 ETH, which everybody thought ETH last bull run was going to 20,000. That's interesting. And Solana $500. And then the other Chinese AI called Kimi AI, alongside DeepSeek AI, had $180,000 Bitcoin, 5,100 ETH, and 452 Sol. So I took an average of all of these AI models because when you create these little composite scores, they tend to give you direction of where we're going. However, Bitcoin expected in at 178K, top for 2025, which would be awesome, by the way. ETH, 7,926. Insanely high, very high. So maybe this AI doesn't actually know the world of hurt that ETH is in right now. Well, won't talk about that because I don't want to depress people. And Solana 471 average target. Now, what I also calculated was the multiples of from where we are now and how much upside you get. So this is what I talked about at the beginning. We are close to the end stage of the bull, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin, even at a 178K, is only 1.76x from here. So you make 76% in your money. ETH, 2.55x. It's 155% gain if you were to buy ETH today. But again, I think the AI has no clue about ETH and what's going on. And then we'll share some data on that, and I'll show you in a minute why I mean that. And then Solana, 471, which is 2x from here, 2.07x. So you plunk down 228, you double your money. This is the reality of where we are now. Remember, it's not a time to get too excited at close to the top of the bull. The time to get excited is in the bear, and that's the time when people are depressed. The time now people are euphoric, and the emotions, the lizard brain is all mixed up. Don't let the lizard brain take control. Let the data take control of your decisions. Very important. So important. Now, this is fun. This is, shout out to Sylvain. This was on a TV station in a place called Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, I believe. And they had a local news report. And this guy, this genius on the left, and I mean that in all honesty, he says there will only be 21 million Bitcoin. He talked about 21 million Bitcoin mined. He doesn't know there'll never be more than 15 million, but that's okay. Let's not ruin a good story at the facts. And then he said, there are 56 million millionaires around the world. And he said, if every one of them wanted to own a full Bitcoin, they couldn't. But this is a stark reminder to everybody. This penny dropped for me in 2017 because I knew how many millionaires there were in the world. And I knew how many Bitcoin there was. And I was like, there's not enough to go around, literally. Not enough. And then forget about the big firms and the big treasuries and the big players and the big bag holders and the lost coins. It is so hard. And the reason I shared this as well, because Saylor said the other day, the billionaires will have to get some. The billionaires, we're not talking the millionaires, the billionaires will have to start building bags right now. And that's going to drive a crazy crunch. So we'll see if it happens. A lot of people say supply crunch never happens because the price goes up, people will sell. Yeah, we'll see. I do believe there could be a supply crunch. Maybe this year, maybe next bull cycle. I'm not sure. Either way, we'll keep track of it. Now, a week ago, I did share this chart, and I thought it's worth revisiting because I know people like Chewy watch my charts on my timelines. So, according to this, and a week ago, words to the effect of, if history repeats and the same pattern repeats within the next 5 to 10 days it was, Bitcoin typically kicks off and adds about 52% in the following month, which means it could push the Bitcoin price to 160,000 by the end of Feb 2025. If history repeats and does this over and over again, it hasn't moved yet. Bitcoin's still there. But we do have 3 days left. And I think at this stage it's probably not going to kick off. But, risk happens fast. We'll see what happens. That's why when I saw this again, I went straight to the OTC desks, added up all the addresses. And I'm like, uh-oh. Maybe that'll come tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe for that. Let's get into crypto as well. And all of the chains, this is crypto transactions. And this whole black hole Sol thing is really taking off. Solana, the 70.6 million transactions. Remember how many I said are done at the very beginning? Across all blockchains. Let's pull that up again. We have 130 million transactions. One chain does way over half of them. Okay? Then Base is number 2 again. Base has come back near number 3. A lot of online coupons for shopping in Asia. And Aptos came back as well, 6.2 million. Binance, 4.8 million. Sui, 4.3 million. But there's one big black hole that does it all. And that has not changed. Shout out to Cardano, 60,000 transactions. They're doing really well. Now, DEX volume, up from 40,000. That's what I mean. Cardano's done better. DEX volume now is getting pretty extreme. One chain does more than all other blockchains combined. And what's worse is Solana is only accelerating. They're not slowing down. Every week they break new records, which is nuts. The daily 7-day volume on DEX volume on Solana is $82.48 billion. Next biggest player is 29 billion, Binance. Then ETH, 24 billion. So Solana's nearly doing 4x what ETH is doing. And you add in all of the other chains. Solana does more than them all combined. DEX volume. Deluxe Bear, thank you for coming in Australia. Also, for the first time ever last week, I reported Solana's issuing more stablecoins than any other chain. Issuing more stablecoins than all other chains combined. Last week, it issued more than Ethereum for the first time. And you see how it accelerated just in a few days? It's crazy. Sui is issuing less, Optimism less, Arbitrum less. Tron shrank by 2 billion. And Tron is the Tether chain. And we have some underlying macro stuff as well happening behind the scenes that are impacting Tether. It might be delisted on a couple of places. I'm trying to dig into that, get the full story. There's a lot going on today. I wasn't able to, I don't want to tell a story until I have all the data, all the sources tied up, or else the internet gets mad if you say something that ends up not being true, fake news. So give me until tomorrow to figure that out. But the point is, Tether might become delisted. If that happens, guess what? That's actually a tailwind for Solana because Circle issue all their USDC on Solana. And that's probably why this thing is exploding right now. Again, nuts. Winner takes most. And that's how the world works. Now, this is also interesting, a little bit out of place here, but there's a thing called TikTok. And apparently, the new leader of the free world is trying to make a deal and get Microsoft to buy them. So this is kind of funny. Microsoft, maybe Oracle, this is the US-based TikTok, which could be worth $500 billion. If you look at the stickiness and the user base, it is a very sticky app. I heard yesterday that TikTok has more user minutes than Meta's Instagram and Facebook combined. TikTok. I've yet to ever try it, so I can't speak. I think I'm too old for TikTok. But anyway, we'll see. I think there's good XRP advice on TikTok as well. Anyway, moving on with the story. Let's get into more why this video is named Seller Exhaustion. This is a cool chart here that shows you very clearly, based on SOPR and realized price, realized loss signal, that the sellers are pretty much out of coin to sell from the team at Glassnode. And we'll see if this continues. But as I've been tracking for a long time, the long-term holders especially typically sell, about a third of their bag. And that third is already 70% sold this year. So the question is, what's going to happen next? And they cleverly know when to layer out of their positions. So we'll do more on this to try to find exactly where we are going next. We're still in the good news segment, by the way. Hard to believe. Let's look at stocks year to date. I like to do year to date because the new year has kicked off some crazy stuff. Now, despite the crazy black swan that happened yesterday and over the weekend, NVIDIA is still only down 6.87% year to date. Apple down 4%. Apple was down 10% last week, so that's recovered. Microsoft is up. Google is up. Meta is up 15.47%. Meta needs TikTok to shut down. That would actually help Meta stock. If TikTok gets acquired by an Oracle or a Microsoft, that would actually impact Meta stock, I believe. We'll see. Amazon up 8%. Tesla up 1.23%. Tesla earnings are tomorrow. That'll move the stock in one way or the other. Now, we had a crazy, crazy day yesterday. And a lot of people who've been around markets for a long time think AI is a bubble. It's going to blow up. But I think AI is different because it has so much impact around productivity, which will in turn increase GDP. So I think it is a special thing. It's not like the dot-com bust of 1999, 2000. But this is what happened yesterday. NVIDIA lost half of Tesla's market cap yesterday. Half, which is actually more than Oracle's entire market cap, more than United Health Group. It's a little less than Visa, but pretty much the same, and Eli Lilly, etc. That's how big the loss was yesterday when a $3.3 trillion company loses 17% of its market cap, or stock falls 70%. It's a massive, massive number. So that was historic. And tomorrow we have earnings for a couple of big names, Meta, Tesla, Microsoft, etc., all happening at the same time. We'll see what happens, but it'll be a big day. It'll be a volatile day. And be ready with your sniper rifles. I'm hoping for a dipperoonie. We'll be discussing all of this tomorrow with this killer panel I'm honored to be a part of, with Herbert and CERN and like Alexandra and Jeff Lutz and Futuraza and I can't remember the guy's name up in Canada. Apologies. But we'll all be there. And of course, CERN Basher and all the killer analysts that you could imagine. So Gary as well. It's going to be a good show. We'll try to break down not only the impact of the earnings report, but also look at where we're going next. 2025 will be a very transformative year for Tesla, no doubt in my mind. And a lot of people are very afraid of, what happened over the weekend is going to impact Tesla. No. In fact, if anything, it helps it. We'll get to that tomorrow as well. Now, speaking of Tesla and Elon Musk, XMoney, X's Twitter, XMoney is coming, and they just partnered with Visa. Visa is the biggest money transfer debit credit card company on the planet. And Linda is very excited for this partnership too. So this XMoney is coming in 2025. Not sure exactly when, but it's coming. And that will disrupt more stuff. It goes without saying. Metaplanet as well. This is kind of bonkers. Metaplanet. They currently hold about 1,700 Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken, worth about 170, 180 million. But they plan to expand their reserve to 10,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2025. Not only was Metaplanet the best performing stock in Japan because of this strategy, but also because the yen is tanking. So if you're holding a hard fiat like Bitcoin, or a hard asset like Bitcoin versus a soft fiat like a yen, you're only going to win. It's that simple. But to get to this target, they want to raise 745 million, which could buy them another 7,450 Bitcoin, which would get them to about 9,000 Bitcoin by year end, unless, of course, they can score a really good price. But that's crazy. So this is just yet another firm coming along and gobbling up all the Bitcoin. If the sellers are exhausted and the OTC desks are out, this is the moment we are waiting for. I can't wait for it to happen. Supply crunch, if it happens. No guarantees. We'll see. Let's get into the bad news. We did have the DeepSeek BlackSwan that was on nobody's radar until early last week. And it happened, and it scared everybody. Now is the time, after these kind of big news events happen, the first reaction is terror and fear and sell and panic and freak out. Then people start studying, the actual impact. And is it going to be bad for NVIDIA? Is it going to be bad for AI? Is it going to be bad for semiconductor makers? But you can see here the impact of this Chinese AI revolutionary solution to algos. The impact, S&P tanked. The QQQ fell about 3.3%. Micron down about 15%. Broadcom 15%. NVIDIA nearly 20%. This is what you call a buying opportunity. A killer dip to snag some of this. And that's how it works. Markets react with panic first, and then logic creeps in over the following days. No doubt in my mind, NVIDIA will be back to all-time highs soon. In other bad news, Kucoin exits the US market. For those of you who use it, I didn't think it was even operating here. But anyway, they had to pay a $300 million fine for unlicensed operations, and they have left the building. They're gone. So that's bad. Let's get into the ugly news. A little bit of ugly news and a little more than normal. First of all, this guy is Ripple CEO Brad Gerlinghouse. Ripple is the firm that has the 50 billion in XRP tokens in collateral that they just leak out all the time. And he opposes Bitcoin-only reserve. This was, I talked about Jack Mallers hammering Ripple. They don't want a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the US government. They want to mix in their poop coin as well. This is probably one of the reasons why XRP has been pumping so hard. It's in a very irrational place using my logic and metrics. But hey, that's crypto. And yeah, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but I definitely don't want anything mixed up with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Okay? Pure. Keep it pure. Do not infect it. Do not muck around with other stuff. Ever. Sorry to the XRP bag holders, which of course do not watch my channel. Let's talk about the unlocks for the week. Eigen, big dump as usual. Coming in, some of the names I don't even know. ENA always dumping. CeeLo, 1inch, Optimism, Mocha, Sui is there, Zeta, DYDX, XTC, Kaspa again, Move and Aptos. They are the names. It's actually interesting to see a lot of layer 2s are doing a lot of unlocks as well. We do have that big unlock in March for Solana, which will be featured here when the time comes. But again, nothing to lose too much sleep about. And the final bit of very ugly news, which is probably the most concerning news today. Cramer just flipped bullish on Bitcoin from DGen News. Jim Cramer says, I own Bitcoin. You should own Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a great thing to have in your portfolio. And this is kind of, he's talking about MicroStrategy as well. It's a face palm moment because whenever he says, like literally last week, Cramer came out and said, NVIDIA is about to pop up. And what happened? It goes down. So this guy is just cursed. He's cursed. Whatever he says, the opposite happens. So he's got a perfect contraindicator. That's the show for today, everybody. All these slides, all these videos are turned into Substacks. You can listen to them again or get the slides, get all the content, 10 cents a day or less, I think, because I think there's a sale on now. I'm not sure. But another team handled that, and thank you to the team that does. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow with a double whammy. Very quick, hopefully, OTC desk analysis for Bitcoin and figure out exactly what's happening with Bitcoin. And now my latest data shows that the ETF flows actually have an inverse correlation to actual Bitcoin price, which shows you either the markets can completely manipulate or whatever else is happening. And then we'll try to get our hands on exactly if a supply crunch is possible and when. Thank you all, everybody. Love you guys. Thank you to mods in the chat. Good night to the team in Europe and everybody out there. Thanks all.